Raised Rowdy.
Aaron Tannenbaum, welcome to the Raised Rowdy podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. This is our maybe earliest podcast in the morning we've ever done.
Yeah, this is what happens when you have suits on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually wearing a suit right now.
Yeah.
I need to let them know.
Actually, we have video now, so we can prove that is not true.
No, that's right. I forgot.
But, thanks for coming on. Kurt approached me about this, and I was like, that would be an amazing podcast. So we have had some industry professionals on, but never anyone in the booking world on ours. So
Well, here I am.
yeah, thank you.
I think,
Prepare to be underwhelmed.
Yeah.
yeah, right. A lot of times we do podcasts to help promote, like, the artist single or the record or a show or whatever. Obviously, you have nothing to promote, really.
Mm-mm.
So this podcast is for me, essentially, because you know a bunch of stuff that I don't know that I've always wanted to know. And I could easily have just called you and asked you, but I think this will be fun and educational for people that are listening to.
Cool.
Because I think of our listenership, all the dozens of people that listen.
Hey, we have hundreds and hundreds.
Yeah, that's true. I think that we have a lot of music fans, but there's also a lot of musicians and people that work in the industry. So
Yeah.
I think this could be cool for them to hear this kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of like young artists that aren't as far along in their career as some people often are, that are a big part of our listenership.
And would love to work with someone like Aaron for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, or just understand how it works. You know?
Yeah.
So, Kurt, why don't you start us off with some hard-hitting questions?
Okay, absolutely. Well, how do you like the new legit podcast studio? Looks good in here, right?
I don't know what I expected, but I didn't really put much thought into it. But when I first walked in here, my first thought was, "Wow, this is super professional." These guys,
Semi-legit. Now we have
yeah.
semi-legit guests on.
Yeah.
minor celebrity here.
Yeah, we put these posters on the wall.
Yeah,
It's pretty great.
Yeah, I mean that's a. How many of these shows on the wall have you
I
have
had anything to do with?
Yeah,
Only this one. Only one.
not the Nashville one.
Oh yeah, I
Okay,
missed that
one,
one.
two.
1, 2.
What about this Colby show? No, you don't work with them.
No.
Okay.
I mean, kind of tangentially, I do.
Yeah.
But I'm a fan of Haley.
Yeah. We like all these artists.
Yeah.
They're good.
All right. Well, so Aaron, you are a booking agent.
Yes.
Okay, so will you kind of give us the idiot's version of what that is?
You're like me. Whenever I'm trying to learn something new, I say, just imagine I'm a kindergartner and explain it to me. That's
Yes,
how
like
I
I'm a
am.
5-year-old, please.
Yeah. So, as an agent, 3,000 foot level is really you.
What is 3,000 foot level?
Well, I just mean from the big picture. I think as you
gotcha.
said,
Okay.
that's like it can get as complicated as we want to get about it, but essentially, it's your role to establish a touring plan for the artist, whether it's 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, and then in collaboration with the manager and the artist, get them to either commit to it or make changes to it, and then it's on you to execute that plan, whatever it may be. And it may be a 3-month plan, it may be a 6-month plan, it may be 12 months, it may be all at the same time. You might have 3-month goals, 6-month goals, 12-month goals, 24-month goals. And I'm not even speaking financially. It could be a lot of other things you guys want to achieve.
Cool. So let's say Nick and I are a band.
Yeah.
And we're called Georgia Floor Line. and we're starting to pop off, and then we sign a booking deal at WME.
Yeah.
And so we say we want to go sell some T-shirts and play to our fans. And so you say, okay, you guys are good for X amount of tickets per show. How do people figure that out?
I think if you're a good agent or paying attention at all, you kind of have a sense of when your artist is starting to ascend, where they kind of fit in the ecosystem of touring. Like I would think, and this isn't unique to me, but I would say if you ask any agent worth their whatever, they could probably tell you a general estimate of what any bands they work with are worth from a ticket standpoint in any given city in North America, probably. So you just use that just institutional knowledge, and it's really quite simple. I mean, you really are just trying to set the artist up to win, and winning may mean a lot of different things. But if we're again just like kindergarten the conversation, it's if you think the band is worth 400 tickets on average, they probably shouldn't be playing a 2,000 cap club. Or maybe if you want to play the 2,000 cap club, you find another band that's worth 700 tickets, and maybe the two of them, 1 + 1 could equal 3, and then you could say, I don't want it to be about anyone but me. It's about us, even if we're playing smaller rooms. Let's go and make it all about our band, not our band and,
Gotcha.
so-and-so. So it just all depends on what your goals are for the situation, and there are hundreds of variables and personalities and permutations of that. So
is there like some sort of, the only word I know how to use for this is like sabermetrics that you use, or like some statistics, or because I know like, when people go to pick singles, they look at streaming numbers and different things like that.
Yeah.
Do booking agents have a resource like that?
Yeah,
that
I mean, at our company, and I think at most large agencies, you have an analytics department. But truth be told, I think it's helpful. It's one piece of the decision-making matrix. I would say the institutional knowledge you have just through experience is the main hub. And what I mean by that is, and I'm going to make all this up, but let's just say your band is
Florida line.
Georgia, Florida line. After your Grammy performance, your goals are to, you want to tour from west back to east, right? You just played it in LA. Well, the streams are showing that you guys are like crushing it in San Francisco streams. Or I'm trying to think of a better example. Let's just say for whatever reason you got a lot of streams in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Cool.
And you're like, we should go hit Albuquerque. And then your agent would probably say, we love Albuquerque. We love the good people of Albuquerque. But for whatever reason, tickets to shows don't sell as well there as they do in, say, Denver. So even if, for example, you might be streaming more in Albuquerque than in Denver, as an agent, I would just tell you, hey, let's maybe not try Albuquerque on this run. Let's go to the places where I think we can really over-index, and Denver would be one of those. So that's just an example of like metrics saying one thing, but just your knowledge of booking hundreds of shows over the years in cities and knowing like where the cities that can pop off a little easier, where the consumer base is just big music fans and loves to go out to purchase tickets to go to shows. So
it's like a gut thing also.
Yeah. I mean, yes.
All right. So how many shows have you booked, do you think?
Man, that's a really good question. It might take me some time. So I've done it for 18 or 20 years. So
a lot of shows.
Yeah.
Well, so give us let's start with like an Aaron origin story kind of. So I know you don't just start, you don't just find an act you like and then like, hey, I'll book your shows.
Yeah.
It's like, do you start working for a booking agency and you're like, I'll make your coffee?
Yeah. I think everyone's journey is probably a little different, just like for you guys or bands. But for me, I'm from Virginia, went to MTSU because I thought, just like if you want to be an architect, you had to go get an architecture degree. So in my head, I was like, well, I guess I got to I don't love anything other than music, that's my main love.
Yeah.
So I can play. So I'm going to double major. I'm going to double major in percussion and music studio. So I went to MTSU first semester, and I realized very quickly that I was like not good enough, I think, at percussion to make a living of it. And then B, my first intro class to the studio, they went through the patch bay. And I was like, fuck this. I can't do it. I'm not
Dude,
into this.
Totally.
I don't even like hooking up my stereo particularly, so I should have realized this.
Charlie work.
Yeah.
I feel that, man. It's like totally. But you know what's cool is that I like that you are obviously are a fan of music, but you're also a musician. Yeah. And I think that if we had more musicians in the business side of things too, then it would be more sympathetic to the people that are making the music.
Well, I think a lot of them are, but to your point, being a fan of music and being a musician doesn't always mean you know how hard it is for our guys, Ethan and Jerry, like the load in Calgary is horrible. So until you like go to the show and see these guys, how hard they have to work there, it's like you don't pick up that stuff unless you're like out there and seeing it, because they're not going to complain. You know, everyone's a pro.
Yeah.
I'm
thinking back to like, it's 3 a.m. on the bus and we have some sort of tough touring schedule.
Oh,
and
yeah.
King being like, God damn it,
yeah,
Aaron.
Yeah, totally. I
mean, hey, there's no complaining now, man.
Well,
as cushy as it can be.
Yeah,
out
but
here.
you're right, because it's very easy for me in my office to sit there and say, well, they got a day off in between these. Like, they could do this.
Yeah, they can get in the van and
yeah. But in reality, a day off isn't necessarily a day off when you're on the road.
No doubt.
It's taxing, and the only reason I know that is because I have been out with you guys,
of course.
and I wasn't even working. I was just getting in the way, observing, hanging out, and it was taxing on me. I was exhausted when I got home. It was like, 3 days at a time, 4 days a week.
Yeah.
It's brutal. Road is hard, man.
Yeah.
And I get that. I really do.
Well, it's not as hard as it used to be, at least for me. I'll say that.
Yeah, fortunately.
But anyway, so MTSU.
MTSU. Yeah. So
screw these knobs.
Oh yeah, basically. So I switched to the business side, the suit side, as you guys would call.
Yeah, that's what Rob went to
I know.
business school
I
at
know.
MTSU.
I know.
Rob Wolford.
Have you guys interviewed Rob?
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Love that guy.
Aaron's not a true fan of the podcast.
I didn't know. I didn't
every
know.
Episode.
Not every episode.
Yeah.
So I switched to business, and it's interesting looking back, because as I said, if you want to be an architect, you go to architecture school. I didn't realize you didn't have to necessarily go to music business school to be in the business, but at the time I thought that. So went through it, graduated, and got an internship at a publicity firm, and the guys and gals there knew it was just like I was more interested in music, but it was an internship. Hopefully they could introduce me to other people. So one day I was at the internship. It had turned into like a minimum wage job at the time. I just graduated, and the head of the company pulled me into his office and said, go, they're looking for an assistant to Bobby Cudd. He's an agent at Monterey Peninsula Artist. Get out of your flip-flops, put on some real shoes, and go interview. So I said, you got it. So
Yes, sir.
went and changed out of whatever I was wearing and went and interviewed, didn't get the job. Bummed. Oh well. So 4 months later, the same agency called and was like, hey, we need to hire a receptionist. Are you interested? And I said, absolutely. So I answered the phones at that company for, 8 months or so, which was incredibly hard. I don't know if you've ever worked a switchboard before, but it is freak out city, man.
Oh, yeah, it's stressful.
It's like calls are coming in and you're trying to juggle. You got to remember who's on what line. And just imagine you're this young kid and you're working with all these people that in your mind are like super important, and you want to do the best job you can and not mess things up. And you got all these important managers calling in that you don't know, but you don't want to have a bad impression on them. So after the first trial by fire week, I got used to it and got to where I could handle it, but it was really, really hard.
All those switchboard classes at MTSU
dude,
helped
I know,
out.
right? Yeah, exactly.
Just different knobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did that. Then I think for most people in the agency world, it's like you move up in the ranks. It's essentially an apprentice program where you become an assistant, and then you get into a trainee program. They didn't have that when I was there. It was a smaller company. And the training programs are basically just elevate you a little bit more, have projects for you to do within the agency that kind of test your resolve and work ethic. But it's a little like the Hunger Games, I think, if I've got to be honest, because it's really competitive. They only let a certain amount of people in that, and then there's only a certain amount of people within the trainee program will become agents. And I don't know that I would have made it had I been in a larger company. You know, it was like me and this other dude, and we were just like, hey, should we book some clubs? Can we help you guys? Yeah, sure. Okay. So I just started making phone calls.
So this is a question I've been wanting to ask you too. I think we're in this part of the origin story where, what was the first show you ever booked?
I think it was a Shooter Jennings show.
Cool.
Yeah. Hey, do you know Shooter? He's
not personally.
Dude, he's awesome.
No, I know his music, but not personally.
Yeah, he's the sweetest, coolest guy, man. Yeah, my boss had signed him, and basically, I was like a huge fan of the record. It was Put the O Back in Country, I think was the name of it. Yeah. And I didn't really know what that meant until I actually did the research. But anyways, it was a great record. Shooter was super cool. It was like the new hot thing. So like,
what year was this? 1980.
No,
not that early.
Not that far back. 2003 or 4 maybe, something like that. And my boss was like kind enough and trusted me enough to like let me run with it. And I think it was probably like the Lincoln Theater in Raleigh or Cat's Cradle in Carborough or maybe even the Exit. I don't know. But it was fucking awesome, man.
Was that a moment for you when you like booked your first show?
Oh my God, yeah, dude. Have you ever been nervous about something and you like over plan for the moment? You know, like you and then once you get in the moment, it's just like you're in a car wreck and everything just happens so fast.
Sure.
And it's like,
oh yeah,
I had all this stuff prepared.
Yeah.
It was basically like that. It was like I was so nervous. And I remember calling, and you know, it's just this club owner who's like just trying to fill his calendar, doesn't have time for an idiot like bumbling on the phone, like trying to say, you know. And I just remember getting an offer after like a really uncomfortable conversation on my side of it, and just thinking like, okay, I did it. I can do this. Yeah. And then you just like you develop a style, and all agents are different, man.
Wait, what? A booking agent style? What's your style?
I don't mean in terms of like fashion or anything. I just mean
Aaron style.
Yeah, right. I mean it in like, you know, some people are really hard sellers. You know, some
like
people
a car salesman or something.
Yeah, some people have a softer touch. Some people are, I would say, a little bit more forthcoming with the reality of that artist they're trying to execute for their buyers. Mm-hmm. So it would be like, for example, you've got an artist A who is probably worth $5,000, but they're actually worth. You guys are worth more than that.
True. It's true.
But they're probably worth $5,000, but they're asking $20,000. So, you know, in one respect, you could go to a buyer and say, "Man, $20,000 are great. All these hits, man, it's going to be great." You know, blah 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 blah. And I'm not. It's not my style to do that, so I'm having trouble kind of like articulating how they would do it. But
because if they don't sell a lot of tickets, then,
right,
you lose your credibility. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So the way that I found worked for me was basically saying, "Hey, man." Once I had a long relationship with them, it kind of changed into a version 2. But the version 1 was like, "Man, they're asking for 20. I can't promise you they're gonna sell $20,000 worth of tickets, but here's the hits they have. Here's where we've been playing. Here's the numbers they did in a few places. I can't promise you're gonna do that, but man, we need a router. If you want to put in an offer as close as you can to that, let's take it in." So that was like kind of my style. And then once you develop friendships with all these promoters and trust, you can say things like, "Man, they're asking 20. They're probably not worth it, but man, we've done a lot of shows together. You've made a lot of money. I really need this for the client.
Yeah.
Can you please just help me out here?" And oftentimes they will, you know.
And then you're like, also I have this $25,000 artist that will come play for 20 or whatever.
Yeah. It's you're not like as like you don't like. I don't think it's necessarily like you said like a to B barter session. I'll get you him for cheaper. It's more like I'll get you back. I'll make sure I get you something where you're gonna do well. It's that kind of thing. So in the aggregate, the relationships are served both ways. But it takes a while for I think some agents to mature to understand like you can't burn your promoters. You need them. You need them to trust you, and you need to trust them. And if it's built on like you just like car salesman-ing, if that's a verb, I don't know, them into like doing things, you're not going to have that trust, and you're not going to need them, or you're not going to have them when you really need them.
Right, that's just the quick burn kind of a thing. Make your buck and then burn all your bridges.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I mean, it's not rocket science, man. It's relationships.
I thought for sure when you said you booked your first act, it was going to be someone that we've never heard of that isn't in music anymore or something.
Man, I just got lucky, dude. I think my entire career I've just gotten lucky and haven't fucked it up.
Dude, that's my MO, man. That's like I need that tattooed on my face. It's like lucky guy for sure. That's how I feel.
Well, I mean, think about it. It's like the older you get, the more mature you are, typically. And
hopefully,
and the more you realize that like there's so much chance, and you begin humility just really sits on you, and you really understand where you fall just in like the world and in situations, and taking advantage of opportunities is really all you can do, and work hard and not be an asshole, and then that's it.
Yeah, easier said than done sometimes for some people.
Yeah,
but I agree, man. There's so many talented people out there.
Well, you've put in a lot of work. You're an incredible player. So
thank you.
He practices a lot.
All right, I'm going to turn the camera back on you for a second. So the first time I met Kurt, I don't know if I've told you this story, Kurt. I didn't really actually meet you. You were more like an enigma sitting in the club doing something, which I'll get into in a second. So
drugs.
We were out.
Kidding.
I was out with an artist. Will remain nameless. You, of course, know who
we
that
gotta
is.
name him. Go ahead.
Does it matter? I don't think it matters. Okay,
all right.
we were out. What should we do here?
Is this before you got fired or no?
It was before I got fired. Yes. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway,
okay.
And for the record, I don't think I'm fired for appropriate reasons.
No,
but that's
agree.
okay.
I agree.
Anyways, so we were out, and I walked in. We were at one of those, there's hundreds of clubs that look just like it all across the country.
Jurgles.
Cactus this, cowboy that, whatever. And they're great, right? It's not a diss, but it looked like it was in Fort Wayne, actually. I know exactly where it was.
Oh, 7 Second Saloon? Is that?
That's 8 seconds in
8 seconds?
Indy.
It's in
Indy, yeah.
Not
Close.
I don't know
No,
that
you
in
were in the
Fort Wayne.
state. You were in the state. So, so we were there, and I remember getting off the bus and walking into the club to try and get some food. They were like, "Hey, they're cooking hamburgers or whatever for us."
Of course,
Yeah,
always.
yeah. Super healthy out
Yeah.
there. And I was like, "Who's that dude? I don't know him." I don't remember I talked to the artist or just one of the other players on the tour that I knew. And they were like, "Oh, that's Kurt." I don't know if he whispered. I feel like he whispered. He's like, "That's Kurt. He's really good. He's doing this, transposing something for FGL right now, or something." And you were sitting at like a bar top, and I'm pretty sure you had headphones on, and you had a tablature, and you were writing down. And I just remember thinking, like, "Ooh, this must be some like quiet genius. I can't disturb his like."
Okay, I do remember this.
His chi or flow or whatever the fuck, and like, so I just left you alone. I might have said hi or something, and then I don't know that we even had a relationship at that point. And then you showed up with Combs, and I was like, "Oh, hey, man!" And then that's when I think we started to talk and hang out a little bit more.
Yeah, this is kind of a weird thing. I don't know. In hindsight, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing or not. But FGL, like some of the guys in the band, this is probably 2015 maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
Just guessing, something like had hired me to re-record parts on their record, and so they could use it. They could use it as stems live. Like so, when they played, they had additional music playing through a computer tracks. And so when you went to an FGL show for a while,
Not to be confused with Georgia Florida Line.
true,
Yeah. Who are a
Just for
new
the
band.
record,
who
new
don't
band.
use tracks,
Yeah.
Use tracks.
We don't
But-
even use a
so
clip.
they paid me to re-record the album parts so they could have like a banjo playing or whatever. So that's what I was doing.
But they were kind of a big deal then. It wasn't like it was
huge.
like it wasn't like he was doing it for Joe,
Schmo,
like Spicy Burrito Band or something.
I wanted to play for FGL so bad, like back in the day.
I mean, bro country, bro.
Yeah, I was
Bro.
like,
It was the funnest time ever.
and I heard that song Sundays came out, and it had that Rip and Dobro on it. And my buddy Tyler was like their band leader. I'm like, who plays this live? He's like, I kind of play it, but I'm not very good at Dobro. I'm like, you got a cool guy, you know. But you know, as Daddy Garth would say, he's unanswered prayers. So now I play with him, which is cool.
Yeah, way better long-term gig.
Yeah,
Now you can rip
yeah,
solos on
With-
Combs' tour.
yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
With your booking, which is so
Yes,
sick.
I am.
Okay, so you booked your first show,
Picked my first show.
then
And then I started to like I realized this other little anecdote. Just like being in the business, you don't know anything, so you kind of got
That's true.
to figure it out yourself. There's some like training, but no one just sits down and says, "Okay, here's what you do now, and here's what you do now." You kind of just figure it out, probably like you guys, by observing friends, colleagues, whatever.
by fucking up.
Yeah, and you make tons of mistakes. Totally, we all did. And then I started to notice that like it seemed like there were some agents that would really pay attention, and others that would just book the date, move on, book the date, move on. And I started to like think about it, like maybe if I really thought about stuff like critically, I could be better at this job. So back to your streaming question or whatever, I started to like really pay attention to consumption. Like radio is a passive kind of barometer, you know, like a number one. Not all number ones are created equal, right? Like certain number ones mean a whole hell of a lot, and certain number ones don't. And then a top 10 can mean more. Like Jamie Johnson's In Color. I don't know if that was a number one or not, but fucking A, man.
Right. And
That-
Fancy, not a number one.
Yeah, like it just like I started to pay attention to the actual consumption. And before streaming, when I was starting, it was like single sales. So I started to like look at where the single sales were happening for an artist, and then asking a lot of questions of more senior agents of like, because I didn't know Denver was better than Albuquerque at the time, you know. So, but I did know that we were selling a lot of albums in Albuquerque and Denver. I'm just using our original example.
that's
So
fine.
I would be like, okay, so it feels like I got to find maybe 15 of these if he wants to tour, she wants to tour in the fall, to give him the best chance for success. So I started doing that, and it just like, it started to work, right? And I didn't bat 1,000, but it seemed like the choices I was making for the people I was working with at the time seemed to be really helping their trajectory. And so then it just took like at bats, just like, how do you do more of this? How do you like get into it further? How do you study it further? How do you control more variables? Like I figured out playing, if you're a club act, playing on the Friday night of a home game weekend in like Athens was like smoke show.
Wow.
You know, like,
Cool.
like I was like, okay, so this artist usually can sell 400, but if I can get him on this night, I bet he'll do 700 just because it's a little helpful. So
Go Dogs.
you learn you learn little things like that, and that's just one of them. And then if you do like 100 of those, suddenly the artist is like, I'm not taking responsibility for their success in any way, but they're able to kind of over-index in places, and that over-indexing helps other over-indexing, and it just all feeds on itself, and it's just
Snowballs.
snowballs.
They're
And
selling
it's-
more T-shirts. And
yeah, just like it was so cool to see that like I could have some
That's awesome.
measurable
Man. That's
effect.
so inspiring. That's
Yeah,
so cool.
well, it's not complicated. Like I'm
I mean, if you're doing it, it can't be that hard.
Tell me about it. Like the only thing I think I know that I am good at is I know that I remember telling myself I don't think I'm the smartest, but I think I can work harder than anyone, and I think I could think about it harder than anybody. It doesn't mean I would like get it quick, but like I would sit and think, all right, and I may be a little slower than most, but I would figure out something that is a good idea, and then the speed would come, once I figured it out. So
Yeah, got your reps in.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah,
I've
just
been
like
here
you.
before.
yeah,
That's
Yeah.
funny.
With the
Like
Cowboys in '94.
every interview I'm in where they always ask like, what's your biggest weakness? I'm like, well, I'm not the fastest learner, but when I learn it, I
Yeah.
really learn it well, So that's like kind of the same way. It's funny too. Like, I mean, we don't book national acts like that, but like little things like booking writers rounds,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
who do you position in what slot?
yeah.
And then other things like we did a Canada night during Thanksgiving week here. Because
Yeah,
Canadian
right.
Thanksgiving's not the same.
It's October, I think,
All,
yeah.
all the Canadian people were still in town.
Yeah, yeah.
And they all came out to support
Yeah,
their fellow
yeah,
Canadians.
yeah.
So I stumbled into that, but now I'm like, well, I'm going to book a Canadian night every Thanksgiving.
That's just a great example of like you can't like if you could have easily just thrown up 3 riders that you knew or 4 riders, but
Yeah.
you just took the time to think about it, and I firmly believe that like you do that enough times, like cream will rise to the top.
Yeah.
You will find success eventually.
Yeah.
So
How long is like the longest that you book out shows like in advance?
well, Kurt requires at least 2 years notice on anything or he's out. Real talk. It is depending on the artist. Typically, the larger the artist, the further out you book. So, for example, for Kurt's band, we are we're working. I'm planning fall of 2025 right now.
Yeah.
I'm working on that. But then for
I want to know what it is so bad.
we could talk off
camera.
camera. But for someone like a younger club act that's on the label or not on the label, but can sell 500,000 tickets, I'm working on fall of 2024 and maybe early spring.
Yeah.
And then if you're even younger than that, you have a plan, but you have to be really accommodating to pivot if opportunities come. So yeah, I think just like generally the bigger the artist, the further out you plan.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, who else are you working with besides Luke? I feel like I should know this, but I don't.
Well,
Do you need to work with anyone else right now?
I mean, I guess it depends on. I just love the job, so
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I go and play gigs for money, for like $100 or something, just because I love playing music.
Yeah, and they probably are all a little different, right? So they
Yeah.
scratch a little different itch in
For
that
sure.
way. So in the same way, like I represent Martina McBride, and
That's cool.
that scratches a different like intellectual itch for me than the Luke team, because it's just like she has different goals, and I'm like, I remember I put together a symphony tour for her a few years ago, and I'd never done it before, so I had to like ask a lot of questions of other agents that had, then do a lot of research, and then put it together. But it was like a challenge, and it was really fun to execute, and it ended up being great, and I was really proud of myself. And as far as I know, Martina had a great time. So it's just everything's a little different. Other than her, Connor Smith is a young act I work with. Red Clay Strays I'm on the team with, and there are a couple agents internally that handle most of the day-to-day. But
So you're still looking for like the younger acts.
yeah, but it's not. I don't feel like I have to work with anyone. The only way I will want to work with someone at this point is like if I like have to. Like in my mind, I was like,
Right.
I fucking have to do this.
Right.
But sometimes it's like it's better just to be a fan. You know, like that's a hard thing to figure out as an agent, because at first you're like, oh, I love this. I want to work with him. But you can't
Right.
do that, and so it's like sometimes it's just nice to sit back and
hold your horses.
Yeah.
I definitely think I'm like, if I was a manager, I would manage them and them and them.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you know what I mean? That would be
yeah.
like, then I would have 30 artists like Cappy. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Dude, guy's not here. We can't roast him.
no, I know. But all the love to Cappy. But that's so funny that you bring that up because I have that thought too.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
But I guess there must be a way like you like the music, but also you see a path
Yes.
to help them.
You're like very intuitive thought. It's exactly right. There are certain cases where you don't see a path and there's not much you can do. And I guess the easier way, the kindergarten way to put it is like, can I help this person or not?
Yeah.
And if you don't think that you can, then it's probably not the right thing to do. Or if their current agent's doing a great job and I don't have any comments, like keep kicking ass. I'm continue to be a fan. But if you don't see a path, if you don't think you can help them improve their touring or whatever, then yeah, it doesn't. At least that's my philosophy. I don't want to speak for every agent, but that's for me.
Stay out of the kitchen, so there's not too many people in there.
Yes. Yes.
Man, that is so cool. So we have other buddies. Andrew, who works at CAA.
Yeah.
You used to work at CAA, right?
I did. Yep.
So, and then can we talk about how that panned out, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's a like a, you might have to have 5 podcasts for that. But yeah, I was at CAA and there are a lot of great people there.
Well, quick question beforehand, because all these 3-letter names to people
Yeah.
that don't know who booking agents are.
Yeah.
Who are the Mount Rushmore of booking agents, at least as far as country goes?
Luke, I wish I could remember his exact words. He made some hilarious comment to me when I left CAA about, all right, well, what other 3-letter agency are we going to next? Like rolling his eyes at me. It was something like that, but way more funny, obviously.
But he's hilarious.
Yeah.
And handsome.
Yeah. And handsome and talented.
Yeah.
And great dresser.
Yeah.
This is the Luke Combs Money podcast now. Nick, we need to get you somebody.
Sorry, I don't have any. Yeah. So of course,
so the
WME.
WME,
Yep.
CAA,
Yep.
UTA,
Yep.
and there's a company called Wasserman now, which is a large one, and there's one called APA, which is as well, and I would say that's probably the
big
one.
And so Luke was with APA.
Yes,
Is that right?
He was.
Before CAA?
Mhm.
This is getting confusing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So you all were. So did you get Luke from APA to CAA?
Yeah, he and you'd have to talk to them about that whole thing. I mean, that's their.
But you weren't working for APA. You were.
No, I was working for CAA.
And you're like, hey, Shawty, come over here.
Not exactly. Actually, that's exactly how it worked.
Damn.
Strange, it's that easy, dude. No, but yeah, I was at CAA, and after the pandemic, I just had a lot of time to think about what I thought was best for my clients, and I did a lot of research and made the move, and fortunately, most of them came with me, and we've been riding friendly ever since. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Was that terrifying? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because like if you leave and Luke's like, "No, I'm good, man," you're like, "Oh fuck."
Well, I didn't make any like commitments as to like who would, you know what I mean? So I tried to mitigate that as best I could, and I certainly, because there's like contracts involved in your employment, you can't talk to your clients about that stuff beforehand. You would be breaking a contract, so I couldn't implicate him or Cappy or anyone in that decision. So I handled it as best I could, but it was super scary and stressful, and
I mean, I'm stressed just thinking about
it
it
was
for sure.
Yeah.
And like, so overlay that with mid-COVID,
Yeah.
where everything was fucked, you know,
And shows weren't really
great,
booking.
dude. It was
brutal.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Yeah.
But I'm super happy now, and I think all the clients are, as far as I know. So,
That's good.
yeah, man, things are rolling.
Hell yeah. So what's it like booking an NFL stadium?
It's fun, man. It's like, I mean, they're just big clubs, but
Really big clubs.
yeah, there's like a lot of other like specifics you have to keep.
All right. What about booking it 2 weeks before a show or whatever? Tell us about so when we were doing the first year of stadium tour, I guess it's really the second, but we played Nashville and it sold out. And then so Luke decided a couple weeks before, months before, to add a second show.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Because I'm a worrier,
Yeah.
I was terrified. I was like, when he said it, and kudos to him to have the confidence in himself, in the team, which, you know, he was proven to be right. And I was never worried it wouldn't go well, but I am such a planner. I'm so meticulous with things, and there's always like, especially an artist at his level, it's like, you know, I do something for him today, it's because I know what I want to execute in 12 months from now. So it's like a big setup. So that's like the opposite of my love language is to like, let's do this, you know? So I was a little freaked, but I was mostly freaked out of like, all right, I can't let this guy down. I got to make sure that this is as best as it could possibly be. And so I immediately got on the phone with the stadium and the promoter, had to work out some like interesting ticketing things because they had just transitioned from Ticketmaster to their current ticketing platform. Oh,
Access?
shoot. No, it's not Access. It's the one a lot of the NFL teams use them. I can't remember. StubHub maybe?
Okay.
Anyway, so they were on StubHub, but we had already sold the original show on Ticketmaster, and we didn't want to confuse people, so we had to work that whole thing out, and then put together a like incredible marketing plan. And how are we going to roll this out? What's the responsible way? What should we price the tickets at to like get consumers to buy, but not piss people off who had already purchased? So we had to have consistent prices. And then like, okay, what are all like my relationships in all the arenas surrounding Nashville that I could just lean on and say, look, I need you to do me the solid. You've got these massive email lists. Please, can you send out a ticket link for this? Just so more ways to spread the word. So,
So you're also involved in marketing.
yeah, it's not my like. We have people in our office that are focused on marketing, and of course the promoters. That's one of their main jobs is to market the show. But yeah, you're managing the entire, like, as the responsible agent for Luke. Like ultimately, I'm responsible for it. So if there's 20 people executing, like, if something doesn't work, in my mind, I can't blame it on them. Like, I got to say, I didn't get the job done. It's on me. So, so I that's what was so stressful about it. Trying to do that all and like make sure it was great and make sure I could sleep at night knowing that I did my best and made sure everyone else did their best. And dude, I mean, it worked. You were there. It was awesome.
Nick was there.
It was
there?
awesome.
Hell yeah, man.
My parents were there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
was a super great weekend.
Yeah, it was fun, but it was scary. Not because Luke can't demand those amount of ticket sales, but just because it wasn't our normal process of putting up a stadium show. Normally it's months of planning, super meticulous, like, so that's what was like scary about it. I just didn't want to fail, you know.
Gotcha.
I didn't want to fail him.
I mean, no one does, of course. We all try to be the Luke Combs of our job in the Luke Combs world.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
try
yeah.
to live up
Totally.
to that standard, which is not always the easiest, but we do our
No.
best.
Yep.
We were talking a little about ticket prices and all that. I read some headline recently where it was like Jelly Roll promises affordable tickets, and then tickets come out and they're not affordable and people are upset. And that's just some headline. I don't know if there's how the truth of that is, but I know all artists want their tickets to be affordable for their fans. Like, you know, Zach Bryan's like, all my homies hate Ticketmaster. We're not using Ticketmaster. Now he's probably using Ticketmaster or whatever. I know that what the artists want and what happens is not always the same, but I know that like in Jelly's case, I'm sure that he wants what's best for his
Sure.
fans.
Yeah.
Where is the disconnect between wanting to sell, like a $20 ticket and then having it not work out?
Well,
that way?
I mean, talk about a long podcast.
I've got nothing on my calendar. I know you got to go sell some shows.
It's almost like a technological arms race, because as many times as the ticketing platforms, Access, Ticketmaster, whatever it is, will produce or build out software that helps mitigate scalpers, the scalpers find something to usurp that in some way. So I can't speak to exactly the Jelly Roll situation, but it's like a game of whack-a-mole. Like, he may have put tickets up for $25 at a certain section, but the moment that happens, the scalpers, they make money in the space between what you price the tickets at and what people will pay. So that delta is their profit.
Yep.
So they recognize that if you objectively price something cheaper than it necessarily should be, or cheaper than the demand would say, that's their that's like chumming the water for them. So, and then these ticketing platforms have, like I said, software to help prevent some of it, but it's not going to prevent all of it. So you inevitably will find tickets on the scalper sites that are significantly higher than what you initially priced them at. And, it's kind of a murky world, because it there's probably a situation where venues kind of give them some tickets on the side, and there's probably some kickbacks coming to them.
To the
There's
scalpers?
Yeah. I mean,
naughty venues.
Yeah. I don't want to say all of them do it, but it's you're dealing with humans, and a lot of them want an edge in whatever way they can get. So, unfortunately.
Damn, that's crazy. I didn't know that. Did you know that?
I mean, I assumed that things like that happen.
Yeah.
I'm like, everything's great and everyone's happy. And no one's doing bad.
Yeah. Well, usually, I mean, mostly, but it's like I said, it's just like an arms race. So the moment they come up with a way to mitigate scalpers to an extent, scalpers will figure out a way around it. And so
it's like raccoons getting in the trash.
It is.
They're gonna figure out a way to get that
figure out a way,
out,
man.
Even if you put a brick on it.
Opposable thumbs,
yeah,
dude.
Yeah.
They get in there, and then fans don't necessarily always recognize when they're on a secondary site, meaning a StubHub.
Well, even
or whatever.
Ticketmaster has a secondary.
They do.
section,
They do.
Right? They all do, right?
They do.
Yep.
They have one. And their position on it was, well, if it's going to happen anyways, at least it's on the safety of
For sure.
our.
It's like federally regulated marijuana.
Yeah.
And a real ticket.
Yeah, and we could debate that, the pros and cons of that, but it's it's tricky, because once you put your tickets on sale, the horse has left the barn, man, and that barcode can go anywhere that anyone could figure out how to keep it intact, so to speak. That's a really superficial way of saying it.
Yeah.
And then charge more than what the barcode says, and they just keep that money
in between.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Luke and a lot of artists are, go through a lot of pain and spend a lot of time trying to prevent that. And I'm sure Jelly did, and I'm sure, Zach Bryan and Morgan Wallen and all these guys do that, but it's just those thumbs, man.
Yeah,
Opposable thumbs.
they
get in there.
The easiest way to really prevent scalpers is to price the tickets at what the actual value of them is. But the problem with that is sometimes that's not the if you're trying to tell a story as an agent or a manager on what kind of artist this is our narrative, it's not Luke's narrative to charge $300 for a ticket.
Right.
So even though he could,
Yeah.
it's just not who he is. It's not what he wants. It's not, he wouldn't want someone to have to save for 8 months or whatever to buy a ticket, So unfortunately, by doing that, it's more of like a gesture oftentimes, sadly, because the scalpers will just buy it and then charge whatever they want.
And some artists have like a sort of. It's like a stock market, kind of like with demands, like the
the demand. And
what is
that's
that called?
That's called Price Master. Well, there's two of them. There's a thing called Platinum, which is more of like it runs typically most of the time on like automated. So you can just say, hey, don't let the price go over X, or you could say, let the price go however you want. It's like airline seats basically. And those you just kind of sit and forget. Then there's this product called Price Master that you in real time can kind of like change the ticket prices if you're on the phone with promoter. And we did that on the tour with Luke, where we tried to like balance like making sure our prices were affordable, but not letting the scalpers have a field day with it. Yeah.
It's so important too, like that struggle, and being a consumer, you of course understand the consumer side.
Yeah, sure.
Man, this is an expensive ticket, but it's like, would you rather have a ticket that you could actually buy and not spend 3 times the price on, or would you rather have it be $40 cheaper per unit? For me, being a music fan, I would rather have it where I could get the ticket at the right price and know it's a correct ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also understand the other side where there's people that are spending a whole vacation's worth of salary on going to a concert.
Totally.
I mean, some people will go into debt to come see us play.
Yeah.
Like, which
it's a responsibility, man. You
I
guys have
know,
a
man.
huge
It's like
responsibility.
Cappy was telling me this, I'm just like, I gotta go fucking practice, man.
Yeah. Better hit those Dobo strings right.
Yeah, no doubt, dude. And I'm like, that's a lot of stress. I try not to think about it too much when I'm like, up there, I'm just having fun. I'm not thinking about anything really.
Yeah.
I'm just
Luckily, they're probably really doing it, spending it on the beer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
True.
Good point.
By that point, they already got the ticket paid off. You know?
I think Luke sounded good last night. I forget. I'll have to check my phone.
Hey, what's the favorite show you guys have played? Yours.
Oh man, I was just thinking about this the other day, and this question is kind of hard to answer, but I would like to say a few that I like, because since we were just talking about COVID, the feeling, I get tingles in my brain and down my back and goosebumps thinking about the first time we played a show after COVID at Carolina Country Music Fest.
Yeah.
Walking out on stage and everyone's like,
yeah, I was there. I remember that. Totally remember
awesome.
that.
God, pump that in my veins, dude. What a moment that was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're back, baby.
That's when Cappy had the Red Hound out.
The what?
The Red Hound.
What is that?
It was his bus.
Oh, okay. I don't remember that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, good times. But that was a show that like I just remember being on stage and being like, it felt weird, I'm like, ugh, virus, but also like it felt fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And like we just walked out and just hung dong and and had the best time, man.
Yeah, it was cool.
And just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that was fun. All right, so that's one. You had a couple, you said?
Well, this last tour, the Paris show was really cool in Europe. We played a what was it, 1,200, 1,600?
If that.
So it was for a Luke show, is just super tiny.
Yeah.
And it was hot and it was sweaty. And, everyone was tired and I wasn't. I was like, let's go. But, it's like we'd been touring and we had done Australia for a month.
Yeah.
Came home for a month and then went back on Europe for a month. And we're, traveling and we're tired and there's bed bugs and whatever.
What?
And
No.
yeah, Paris was like covered in bed bugs.
You're
apparently.
kidding me. Who told you that?
It was like on CNN and like
Sounds
MSNBC and Fox News and everything. It was like Paris is a hellhole now.
Haven for
I don't know. I mean, we were on the bus. We didn't even go to our hotel rooms, but
smart.
And but we played the show and it was sweaty and it was really hot and it felt like the old times.
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? It was like Luke playing the Georgia Theater now or something.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
That
I
was
love
cool.
that, man.
And Luke was like, man, I'm tired before the show. And he's like, all right, let's go and do it anyway, and give the fans what they want. And after the show, he's like, dude, that was top 5 show for me.
Oh,
That's
awesome.
rad, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was like a really special one. Red Rocks is always cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's been a million, but those are the ones that pop off.
Stick out.
And there's some of the little ones too, like even like playing like Whiskey Jam and stuff like that back in the day, just for more like a nostalgia thing.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, so what about you? I mean,
Favorite?
this show was sick. That crowd was insane.
I think that was
Pittsburgh.
one of the
Pittsburgh.
biggest crowds.
Oh, yeah.
Just the way the stadium is situated, it can
It's like
fit.
close to downtown, and
It can fit like a lot of people in.
Yeah.
Man, this might be my favorite is the Festival d'été we did in Quebec.
oh, that was insane, dude. How many people were there?
60,000, 70.
I think I thought it was more than that, but
But
yeah.
here's it was the way you guys ripped it, number one, but the other part, just I guess this is selfishly thinking, like I spent the better part of like 4 or 5 years trying to convince that guy to trust me and book Luke. I was like, this is a long time. Finally he makes a commitment to do it. And I was so proud standing there watching you guys play and to see all the people there and to see when Combs had the beer guy come by and he bought everyone beer and just it was just massive.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is one of those things you work really, really hard for, and then it happens, and it over indexes your expectation and the person you convinced to do its expectation. You're just, I don't know, it's just a really proud moment for me.
Congrats, man.
It was.
I had no idea that you worked that hard on that.
Well,
I just show up on the bus and just do it.
Dude,
But it's cool to hear your perspective.
We all have those things, man, and that was one of them. It was just like, yeah, it was epic, and the city's awesome
beautiful,
too, man.
It's gorgeous. Yeah.
Weather was great. The catering was awesome. Do you remember that?
Yeah, of course. All the catering for that whole run was so good, especially in Canada. It's delicious.
Yeah, so good. That's probably my favorite.
Dude, that's incredible.
Yeah.
This has been so awesome. I've learned a lot, and I have a new appreciation for what you do. I'm like, Aaron just calls him up and is like, yeah, we're going to sell 60,000 tickets, so give me my check. And they're like, yeah, okay, Aaron. But obviously that's not how it is. And even now with Luke, you still got to work on stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. If do this one favor for me. You mentioned you knew a guy named Andrew.
Yeah.
You should call him and say, thanks for working as hard as you do. Thanks for caring.
Yeah.
He will really, I don't know him, but I guarantee he'll appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because you really, as an agent, you really strap on bulletproof vest for your guys and gals and try so hard to execute what you think is right and what their goals are as artists. And some days are really hard, but man, can be so satisfying. And so, yeah, give them appreciate what you do.
Thank your local talent agent.
Yeah.
Booking agent.
Any advice you have for someone that's looking to get into that field?
Oh, to be an agent?
Yeah.
Start at the bottom and be willing to take a really low paying job as an assistant or a floater or at any one of these agencies. Whatever they'll allow you to do it and work your ass off, and nothing is not your job. You do it and you do the best of your ability, and don't be a dick.
Yeah.
And that's very
a
it.
recurring theme I've noticed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I have a couple questions too before we wrap up here.
Yeah.
So one thing also is, what about advice for artists that want to go and play shows and get a booking deal? Like,
Yeah.
what are you looking for?
I think,
Or maybe what do agents look for? in an artist?
yeah, to like put it in a really like maybe clinical way. Either the passion has to be really high and the commerce could be really low, but if the agent is really passionate about you, it doesn't matter, right? So, or if your commerce is really, really high, the agent hopefully has the same passion, but people that have the high commerce will probably know what we're talking about here. So, point being, find somebody who is really passionate about your music and shares your vision of like of the goal, because they as agents will ideally know how to get you to that goal, but you have to like share that same vision with them on how to do it. And you know, so it's music. Just make sure the music is fantastic or fantastic to somebody, and then don't. How should I say this? I think sometimes artists make the mistake, especially early on, of thinking that if they're not out touring, they're not working. And oftentimes it couldn't be further from the truth. Because if you're young and you don't really have a fan base, but you've got a little fledgling one happening, the last thing you want to do is destroy that fledgling fan base by making yourself too available to them. The idea is to create value around your shows and your ticket. And if you're going and playing this place every fucking month, there's no value to what you're doing. Now, you may start every like month for a very short amount of time to at least just get some fans, but then immediately recognize, all right, I got to take my foot off this gas a little bit. Not the gas of like my career, but recognizing it's a demand thing. So like I if there's more opportunity for them to see you, there's less demand. So you want to create less opportunity to see you, and hopefully demand will go up, and then you create a little momentum in a little pocket of the world, and then you just try and nurture it more and more and more. That's really
circle.
That's really it. I mean, there's a lot of specifics to it, but like I said, it would take too long. But just generally speaking, like recognize you not playing, there's value to not playing.
It's like the opposite of the Tanner pod.
Yeah.
He's like, I played 215 shows this year. I'm like, oh my God.
Well, I mean, if he's playing, I mean, there are 215 probably places to play
For
in
sure.
North
Yeah.
America.
Yeah.
My point is like, if you're not seeing a lot of growth everywhere, maybe find like the 15 places where you think you can put a flag, and then really thoughtfully like don't overplay those.
Yeah.
You know,
Heard that.
and go in on the Friday of the home game. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or there are hundreds of little tricks like that that can help. So yeah, maybe that'd be my best
Okay.
advice.
Last question. Probably not, but this one I've been wanting to ask too. Some artists do well on radio and different things, but have trouble selling tickets.
Yeah.
What is it in your mind that makes someone want to buy a ticket to a show? Like I know, like I'm wearing a Metallica t-shirt. I've bought plenty of Metallica concert tickets in my day.
Yeah.
So, and I've bought Deftones tickets in my day as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's songs I like, but sometimes I like the song, but I don't want to buy the ticket. Or sometimes there's an artist that's not on the radio. I want to buy that.
Man, it's I don't. You really nailed something that I think is, if people knew the answer to that, there would be a lot more arena acts.
Yeah.
But what you've acknowledged is very true, and the only thing that I could say about it is there is a direct correlation to streams and over-indexing streams and over-indexing ticket sales. So, for example, back to not all number ones are created equally. I would say that if we're just using country radio as an example, if the consumption of streaming is really high compared to the spins they're getting at radio, so I'm going to use like small numbers. So let's just say artist A has 10 radio spins and 50 streams consumption. So on the 10 radio streams, there was 50 streams that went. 10 radio plays, 50 streams. Then there is a artist that has 10 radio plays and 12 streams. To me, what I've observed is that there is definitely a correlation. I don't know if it's exact causation, but there's definitely a correlation as to if you compare the amount of plays on radio against the streams and do a little like arithmetic, and there's a consumption per spin number you can get. The higher that consumption per spin number, the more fans give a shit. And the more fans give a shit, the more likely you're going to sell tickets.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
data way to say it. I love it.
Yeah.
So fans that give a shit buy tickets.
Fans that give a shit, like,
Yeah.
I mean, you said it. Like, there are a lot of songs that you can tap your foot to that are ditties, so to speak.
Yeah.
But like, they're not all of them make you feel anything.
Right. And put asses in seats.
Yeah.
Correct. And and now you don't have to have radio. You know,
course
there's
not,
so
yeah.
many artists that just stream insane amounts, and I just use streams for the example. There you go.
Yeah, we got
Streams insane amounts, and a stream is like it's not a passive indicator. It is especially like unique streams where people are literally going on their phone and saying, I want to hear that.
Yeah.
As opposed to radio, who's like, here's what you're hearing. And that's what they measure, not what they've decided they wanted to hear.
So if I go on my phone and I play, let's say Beer No Broke My Heart, and it's on a playlist,
Yep.
is that stream count different than if I search Beer No Broke My Heart?
There's different analytics for it.
Yeah, I think if you whether it's, I mean, it may be sitting on a playlist, but it's still you who like go press it or whatever. I don't know the back end of how it works, but yeah, that's
All right, we need to get Rachel Whitney on the podcast.
Yeah.
Over there
Yeah.
at Spotify. Let's
Yeah.
put that on the to-do list.
Yep. All
That would
right.
be cool.
Adding
just-
it to the bank.
Yeah.
It's just you just got to have songs that people it means something to them.
Yeah. I think that's a part of it too. And in my head, like being, again, a consumer, it's like when you feel connected to the artist, I'm more likely to buy a ticket to see that artist.
Yeah.
Of course, if there's like a buzz around the artist, you're like, okay, let's go see what this is about. But in my opinion, like when I'm like, man, I feel really connected to what this artist's doing. That could be the song, it could be the artist's personality, it
Yeah.
could be any of that.
Yeah.
But that's when I'm like, okay, I'm buying that ticket, no matter what it costs.
Yeah. I mean, we all have those songs that we will literally listen to 7 times in a row.
Yeah.
It's like, those are the songs that put people in seats.
Yeah.
It's the ones that you play and you're like, fuck, that was great. I got to hear that again. Oh, fuck, that was great. I want to hear that again.
Yep.
Or like just wear out that. You know, we've all had those albums we wore out. Those are the bands that sell tickets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are the ones. The ones that don't have those albums or don't have those songs, it's mostly just ditties. And people don't plan to write a ditty. I'm not saying it's like, oh, well, why didn't you tell me to do this? It's just, that's the magic of great songwriters, man.
Yeah, maybe there's something between like being like the person singing it and then being like more of a true artist, I guess. You know, where it's like, or maybe they're just a killer live band, or
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is like it's probably a fucking permutation of ways of percentages of all those things.
the computers will figure out some algorithm or something soon.
Our
Yeah,
robot overlords will be here soon.
Yeah, it'll be a solved equation of music, how to make good songs.
dude, AI is like huge. Not to go down that subject, but like in our business right now,
Tell us everything.
Yeah.
I know I don't know anything. I'm trying to learn it myself, but it is
crazy.
the amount of like deep fakes and problems that could occur for creative people like yourselves, and copyright of your like name and likeness and everything. Like it's a real problem, and
Yeah.
there are a lot of people trying to figure out how to like protect artists in that way, and it's a whole economy of companies that are popping up that like say they have solutions for it, and I don't understand any of it yet. I'm like just starting to learn, but I think it's gonna change the creative game. I think
Yeah.
it really will. Hopefully
it's-
for the better. I just don't know.
It's crazy seeing that stuff, and I mean we use like for our podcast even like we use like services that so instead of having someone sit there and press 1, 2, 3 whenever
Yeah.
each of us should be on camera,
Yeah.
we have a service that basically does
just
that
does
for
it.
us. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
cool.
it makes it scalable.
Yeah.
It's just how is that going to work in the creative process?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know. Like I know there's like services where you're like, okay, here's the benchmark. We're not looking at anything that doesn't fit all of these things, right? But like really when you get into that creative process, how's that going to work? It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that's safe for a lot longer.
Yeah,
is
I
the
hope
creative
so.
side.
I
of
hope
it,
so. I
for
really
sure.
do.
Famous last words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope you're right, though.
As the robots take us over tomorrow. Yeah.
Well, you're already friends with the robots. I'm not as friendly with them yet.
You are. You just don't know it. It's through me.
Yeah.
In what way? Are you friendly with them?
No, just we use ChatGPT.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like,
In the podcast thing, it'll like,
oh yeah. Wait till we show you the clips.
yeah, it clips
Oh,
it
for
up
real?
good,
Yeah.
and it's like, this will be a good clip because of whatever.
It's a good hook.
Yeah.
And
Can it put more hair on my head in any way?
I mean,
you
it
think?
probably
Probably
could.
could.
Yeah.
Or
Hell yeah.
it'll just transcribe the whole thing. So if we need to like,
Yeah.
I don't have to sit there and type out what we say. Not that I've
Yeah.
ever done that, but like if I want to like go through and put a synopsis on iTunes or Spotify or whatever.
The craziest one is we do some of our podcasts virtual, and we use a service called Riverside, and it will give you the chapters of what you guys talked about. It'll transcribe the whole thing.
Jeez.
It's insane. And then it will say, hey, here's the description for the podcast, like what you post.
it'll wow.
Yeah.
It'll just write it for you.
Yeah,
Damn.
and you can even like edit it, and then it knows like how you're writing a little bit, and it tries to style it similarly.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's
That's cool.
gets rid of the Charlie work, you know.
some of it. Yeah. We still need Charlie for a lot of things, but yeah. But no,
This is
it's
awesome.
it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, if you don't embrace this though, you're gonna get passed by.
Yeah.
You know?
You'll be grandpa with the remote
Yeah.
pretty soon if you're
Yeah.
not careful.
Yeah, I already feel like that being 40.
Oh, 100%, man.
I'm like, what do you mean they do this? I've felt like that at times. And then I've gotten past it where I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not saying it's my favorite, but I'm saying if I don't do it, then there's going to be 20 other people that do it right behind us and,
Yeah.
can
Ticks
scale.
and the talks and them kids and
Well, it's from a creative standpoint too, and this is another little rabbit hole. Like just like Spotify, for example, I
Yeah.
fucking love it because it is everything's at my fingertips. I could
Yes.
find so much music. I could get anything I want. I could learn about new bands easily. But the
Accidentally
downside of that, the downside of it is just it's like drinking from a fire hose, man.
Yeah.
Like I can't. It's almost like the playlists are great because they curate it a bit for you. But
Yeah.
man, in one respect, it's fantastic, but the other, it's just like feels like so much, and I don't have time to like really mine it like I really want to.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I feel like since I've moved to town, I've had less exploratory time in like Spotify and things like that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's because I'm doing more stuff,
Yeah.
but it's there's always like a balance of that. Like I make time to go back and listen to things through. And I also have found like for me, I have this community of other folks that love music as much as I do. So like, hey, tell me what you love. Tell me a band that you think's super cool. That's how we found like that band Fox and Mead.
I was just thinking about them. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're a really cool rock band out of Charlotte. And my buddy Will Smith, who's out on the road with like Tyler Halverson and was out with Gavin Adcock as like a video guy.
Yeah.
He's like, bro, you got to check these guys out.
They're good,
so
huh?
yeah, they're really good.
Cool.
And they came up and played one of our events. They're going to be playing another one. But like without friends and people like that, like I would miss on a lot of stuff still that I think before I was the friend that was feeding it to everyone.
Yeah. You were my guy for sure.
Yeah. But now it's like I'm using those resources of like, and who's not happy to share a song or an artist that they love?
100%.
You know?
Dude, in essence, that's what I do all day.
Yeah.
You know, I find things that I love, and then I just get to talk to people all around the world to help share that music, and will
So
help me
great.
share the music. It's pretty rad. It's fun.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys to wrap this up.
All right.
So you probably had some idea of what an agent did, or you have a memory of like an agent you ran. It can't be me, or maybe it can be me, whatever. And you had this like a certain expectation or connotation to them, or a situation that you were like, man, agents, they're the worst, or whatever it was. And you may still feel that way. I don't know, but like,
Yeah.
but like, give me each of you like an example of your perception or perspective pre hanging out, and then where we are now, perhaps.
Well, I'll go first if that's cool. It's definitely, I think being an agent is a lot more creative than I thought it would be.
If you're doing it right, I think it is.
And so I guess I kind of thought it was more of like a band is worth this, and so a club is worth this, and so you just call them, and it's like that, and you figure it out. And I think the creativity I find extremely inspiring, and you have to think outside of the box a lot, and you're just like thinking about things in ways that I wouldn't have. And there's a lot that goes into it that I realized, which is really cool. I mean, hearing you talk about the Quebec show was like, that was really cool for me. Because I had no idea. I just show up and play.
Great show.
And it's definitely a job where when everything's going great, I don't think about the agent, But it's like, if you play a show that's not sold out or something, then it's like, it's like either you do it and everything's fine, or you don't, and it's your fault, even if it's not.
Yep.
Totally.
Yeah. For me, I think I've probably had more interactions with promoters than I have with agents. So you kind of hear that side
of it.
Yeah. So I think it's great to kind of like get the full side. And like we said, we have some friends that are not at your level of what you're doing, but like are kind of on the ground level, like getting started, maybe getting their first artist that they're booking and things.
Totally.
So I've seen that world since I've been here in town. But yeah, agents always have like it almost sounds like you're a spy too, if you're calling it an agent. But it has this like kind of weird thing. But one of the things I love from hearing you talk was hearing how you're like kind of like circling around ideas of like, how do I make this work? And it's the reps. It's not that much different than Kurt playing guitar and making sure he's pro at everything he does. It's your relationships with your people, and you know what this venue is, what these markets are. So it's a lot of like learned knowledge, but it's through taking lashings probably here and there.
Totally, man.
So I love that.
Not to embarrass myself, but I could tell you mistakes
I was going to ask what your biggest flub was.
Let me think of one I could tell you about. Let's see. I mean, there are several. Let's see. I remember I had a client, and I don't want to say the name, but like
you don't have to.
So
we're all done recording.
They were. I was routing their first arena tour, and I had also worked in Texas as like a club agent for a long time, so I knew the market really well, and I knew Amarillo would always crush at the club level for these bands that were like indexing in Texas. And so I just thought I would adopt the same. Well, if it works there, like surely this makes sense for artist A, we'll call them. So when I was routing their arena tour, I was like, let's go through Amarillo because there's a little arena there. It should do great. Did horribly. I think I even got a phone call that night. But
oh boy, that's terrifying.
Yeah, it is. It was terrifying. But what I learned from that is that like you guys are white hot right now. Even being that white hot, you've outgrown Amarillo, but let's just say you didn't. I would never put you guys in that position to have to sell tickets in Amarillo at the arena level. It's just, to your point, the reps. You realize, like, certain markets are best left alone, and there's a reason why people don't play them a lot at that level. So that probably was one of my first big, like, scary moments as a young agent.
Getting that phone call you must have peed a little bit, I'm sure.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. It was,
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's stress of those phone calls.
I know. I've had a couple.
Hair stands up on your back.
Yeah.
Once I'm like, looking at Craigslist, I'm like, oh, lawn care worker. I could do that.
Yeah. Totally. Bro, during COVID, I remember just like brainstorming with my wife, like, I could work at like Amazon, I guess, if we're not going to book shows anymore.
Yeah.
Like
OnlyFans or
always
whatever.
hey man, my feet are immaculate.
Yeah. All right, dude.
Just selling feet photos.
Yeah.
I'm kidding, for the record.
Yeah. Well, but thank you so much for coming on. Like we said, like Kurt oftentimes the guests that Kurt and I have on have something that they're promoting, and we know that this is kind of you doing a service to us and to the community.
Dude.
So
All good, man.
we appreciate it, man.
Thank your local agent, people.
Yeah.
Yes,
Artists.
that's what I want everyone to leave here with. Despite what you may think, they are working hard and they do really care. Their degrees of experience within that, but I guarantee you they're all working hard for you and they're trying their best. So if you have it in you, call them and just say, hey man, or hey woman, thank you for your hard work. I appreciate it. I know it's a tough job. That's what I would ask all of you to do who are musicians.
Okay, one more question. This because this is so cool for me. Have you seen the Claire Dunn clip that's kind of going around?
What is it?
Well, and this is a 6-minute reel that she posted on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, is posting about, she's telling a story about early in her career, she had a booking agent who was a big deal, and she says his name, I forget what his name is, that she had some sort of publishing issue or something she needed a lawyer for. So her booking agent's like, who's a big deal, recommended this lawyer. So she hires this lawyer, and then down the line, the booking agent is like, hey, I'm not going to book your shows anymore for 10%. Like, I want more. He's trying to get her into a 360 deal, like through booking or something.
That sounds peculiar.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then the lawyer is in bed with the booking agent also. And it was like this big, she's like throwing, it's all this like gossip, like basically how she kind of was like, got screwed over. And then she said, no, everyone in town pays their booking agent 10% or whatever it is. Why do I got to pay more? And they're like, well, they work with me. And it's like this whole thing. I don't know. We'll have to make you watch it later and get your feedback on it.
I would love to watch because that sounds
sketchy.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't want to comment on it just because, that sounds really
weird. We'll have to do our research first.
Secondhand.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll check that out. What email do you want to give the people so all the artists can send you the demos?
They can hit me at ADT Aaron David T. Tannenbaum.
Chris Hughes at BlueDome.com. Chris Cappy at
ADT at WMEagency.com.
No, you're about to get flooded with demos.
It's cool, man. I mean, whatever. Got to pay it forward, right?
There you go.
People
all
help
right.
me out.
All right, Aaron. Appreciate you, man. Love you, dog.
Yeah,
Thank you
it.
so much.
Thank you so much, man.
Yep.
Appreciate it. All right, guys. I'm Nicky T.
I'm Kurt Ozan.
And we'll see you in the front row.
All right.